Hello, hello. It is Saturday. I feel like it's so dark. I think it's getting dark outside. There we go. That's a little bit better. It's a tad bit better. Happy Saturday to you all. I'm checking my settings here to make sure we're good. Good old Facebook. Have to help them out sometimes. Help them out. Hello, Dorcas. How you doing? So glad you joined. So glad you joined. All right, this is day 14 of our live, and I just want to welcome everyone. You know, I'm I always have to check and double check on my settings just to make sure. I got to see it twice. I don't know what it is. I always have to see it twice to make sure we're good. And so again, I want to welcome everyone. And we are live on Instagram and Facebook, as well as the Teach Me Tribe YouTube channel. And this is Q&A today with Coach Tiffany. If this is the first time you're joining this challenge, I'm in the middle of almost halfway through my life challenge on co-parenting. And I'm Tiffany Newton. I'm a master certified health and life coach. And I've been in the mental health space for a few years, but I've actually branched off into the co-parenting space. So I'm still doing mental health, but I believe God has moved me into the co-parenting space, and it has really been a blessing. I have really received some good feedback from you all throughout this process, and really even before my challenge, I felt a need to branch off into this space, and I'm so glad I did. Sometimes we have unctions and things that we feel like we should do, but until we actually do it, we really don't know how it's going to turn out. So I'm glad. I'm definitely glad to be here, and and today is Q&A with me. So if you please share this out. If you have been blessed, if you received even one thing from the lives these past 14 days, please share it with others. I have all my lives on the Teach Me Tribe channel on Facebook, so you can just share that out with them just to make it easier for you. Um, and then also, if you have any questions, even live today, as we are going through these questions, please um, ask. Please ask. But I do have a few questions that I would like to answer in the meantime. While if you don't um, if you want to just be thinking of some questions to ask. And the first one I thought was a really good one. A lot of these questions um, they kind of go together. So I'll try to answer them best I can, and based upon the question that you ask, I might give you the answer to yours just by answering the question that I have. So thank you all so much for joining. Thank you so much on Facebook. Uh, but the first question I had was, how can we ensure that the child feels loved and supported despite living in two separate households? And I thought that was a really good question, because I mean we just want the best for our child. We know what to expect when they're in our house. We know what's going on when they're in our house on the time frame that we have them, but we really don't know, what's going on, and especially in in the beginning of a breakup. You know, just imagine, your world being turned upside down, and it is so different. And but I mean, your children, I mean, your children's lives are different too, and they're going through it along with you. And I think a lot of times we don't think about that when we're going through breakups and divorces and we have our kids there, because we're only thinking about how we're feeling in the moment, what it is that we're dealing with. So, in order for our children to continue to feel loved and supported, it is definitely important for both parents to encourage and support a strong bond between the child and the other parent. And you have to recognize the importance of that relationship. And I know it's hard in the beginning, because you're not thinking about them. Right now, you cannot stand them. And I'm not sure if this question came from the standpoint of someone just breaking up, or in the process of breaking up, or um, they've been broken up for a while. But I know it's very important to put your feelings aside that you have for your ex, and focus on how your child is feeling and what it is that take what does it take to get them through this transition. Because just, I mean, it's hard on you, and so it's definitely hard on them too. And I remember one of my boys, they really, both of them, they dealt with, actually all three of my kids, they dealt with our divorce in three different ways. I mean, you think your adult children, they're not impacted by the divorce, but they are too. So, and I think sometimes we discredit that when we have adult children, because we're like, well, at least they're out of the house. At least, yeah, it's a good thing that the divorce didn't happen while they were in the house, depending on how you're looking at it. But it still impacts them because they still love both of you. Both of them are still, I mean, you're both still their parents. And sometimes I think it's even harder for adult children to to really cope and understand with what's going on, because they've been around so long. They grew up with you all. So just take that into consideration as well in regards to adult children. And so, in the midst of the transition, it's so important to continue to encourage your child to communicate with their parent, even though you might not want to. Encourage them, just encourage that continued relationship. Um, and and then it's important to be excited to share about your child's achievements and milestones with each other. You know, we I think that's something that we've done a really good job in doing, um, because I mean the child, they need that. They need that from both of you. They need to know that both of you care. And I think sometimes we are selfish when it comes to our time, when it comes to things that we want, and we do forget about our kids. But I really remember, our kids are number one. They're our focus in all of this. And in the meantime, we could still, take care of ourselves, but in the end, it's our kids that we want to raise to be emotionally healthy in the process. So that was a good question. Um, Another question that I had, and feel free now, if you have any questions, if you come in, you have any questions, just put them in the comments, and I definitely wanna answer your questions. So, um, another question that I have is, how can financial situations impact co-parenting, and what strategies can you use to deal with those challenges? I thought that was a really good question because I've been through that too. And I mean, it's hard. I mean, I've been in a position where I have had completely no support financially, physically, or mental, I mean, whatever. I have had no support raising my daughter in regards to her father. And then I've had, you know, support with the boy's father, but we have had some, financial challenges along the way, and of course, I'm not here to put out all of our business, but I will say in regards to this question, um, communication, it is the utmost importance. We all know that we have responsibilities, we have obligations as it relates to our child. And I mean, we shouldn't have to be told what to do, but this is where accountability comes into play. And but when you also have that partnership mindset, when you're constantly establishing that, you know, talking about financial matters concerning your child's needs, things that they need, the support that they need, it comes a little bit easier because you can remind the other parent, hey, you know, so and so, they need this. What is it that, especially if you are not receiving child support, if you're sharing custody, that's definitely when this comes into play. And you have to communicate those timelines. Okay, let's say someone is in between jobs and you're unable to, I guess this can apply to even someone who's paying child support. If you're in between jobs, you're not getting that regular allowance every month, to take care of your child is important. Dads, moms, whoever is responsible to say, hey, this is going on. This is definitely going to impact our child. Hey, Miss Harris, thank you for joining. So instead of you getting upset, you don't need to be concerned with how they lost their job. We need to be solution oriented, focused on our child. Okay, so what is it we're going to do? How are we going to bridge this gap? We both know that these things are needed for our child. So what is it that we're going to do to make this work? And what timelines are we looking at? What is your plan um, to get caught up? What is your plan to make sure that our child is taken care of? So, and that comes with accountability and making sure it gets done. I mean, and that goes back to the conflict resolution, that I talked about. Was it yesterday, day before yesterday? Sometimes you have to address those things, and sometimes these conversations aren't easy, but they have to be done. But as long as we're focused on the child, as long as our conversation is about the child and not about the personal things that are going on within us, then then we'll have some type of success with that. It's not going to be perfect, but at least you'll be moving in the right direction. You'll all be on the same page. Okay. So the last question I had, and just as I said before, if you have any questions, because this is Q&A, if you have any questions, just put it in the comments. I'll be happy to answer your questions right now. And if you have any questions even later on that you want to send to me in those two outlets that I gave, whether it's on the Teach Me Tribe Gmail, which is teachmetribe@gmail.com, or through the form that I put out, feel free to do that as well. I'll continue to check that. And this probably won't be the only time I'll do Q&A. I'll probably do one towards the end of the challenge, but since it's in the middle of the challenge, I definitely wanted to get one in just in case anyone had any questions. So this last one that I have was a really good question that came in. And, this is how to handle my ex and maintain boundaries when it's challenging. So, partnering, co-parenting with a difficult ex, it can be challenging. Um, but it's essential that we continue to prioritize our child's well-being. I mean, that never changes, whether we have a healthy spouse or a difficult spouse. And it's funny when I saw this question, I knew this was something that I was going to address anyway in the live, and I'll probably have a separate live just for this. But so hopefully, whoever asked this question, I'll let you know when it's coming, because I'm going to dedicate a live just on this. But in the meantime, to answer your question, I'll do a couple things because I want to get too into the live that I'm going to do. But I'll give you a couple things to help you right now. And I hopefully I don't have to mention communication, because I know that's something that I'm always talking about. But I will say setting clear boundaries. You have to set clear boundaries. You have to, if you don't already have them, you have to establish the boundaries. And then you have to maintain those clear boundaries with your ex. And this looks like, defining what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior, during your interactions. And this can be the mother or the father, because both of us, we can get it. you know we can go at it. So this doesn't just pertain to moms, this doesn't just pertain to dads. So, but you also have to, as you are defining those boundaries, and only you can define those boundaries within yourself. Okay, this is something I'm not going to tolerate, this is something I am, that I can tolerate. So when that person does cross that line, then you know that you can address that. You can say, okay, we're not going to do this. you know I'm not going to tolerate you yelling at me. I'm not going to tolerate you cussing at me. This is about our child, and that should be our main focus. You know, and you can be respectful. Because if they do become disrespectful, if they become aggressive, it's very crucial that you insert those boundaries, because they have to understand this is not what we're going to do. Not at all. And then to have conflict, in front of your child is something that we're not going to do. And, if it gets to the point where communicating in person, is a challenge, you might have to go to just written communication, you know. But let me not go too far off into what I'm going to talk about, but setting clear boundaries. Um, is definitely one that I want to talk about. And another thing that I'll mention, yes, the chorus boundaries are huge. Um, and another thing I definitely want to talk about, just to help you out today, is just taking care of yourself. Normally, when you're dealing with a difficult ex, it can be emotionally draining. I mean, it can be stressful. So it's so important for you to take care of yourself. You know, seek support from your friends. And I'm not talking about, having bashing sessions or anything, you know. I'm just talking about just seeking support for you, you know, and even a therapist, can help, from family, just so you can cope with, the challenges throughout this time. And remember, it doesn't always have to be like this. Sometimes it's a season. And I think sometimes we hold it against the other parent when they haven't been their best in certain seasons, because we do want the best for our child. We want our child to have the best parent that they could possibly have. And so just keep that in mind too. But in the process, just take care of yourself. Implement self-care, seek support doing that. So that's the last question that I'm gonna address today. If you all have any questions, um, feel free, send them in the comments. If you got anything out of this Q&A session, drop some butterflies in the comments so I know that you got something. And because I enjoy reading your comments, I enjoy getting your feedback. It really does help. It helps me to know that I'm serving you well, because that's what I want to do. And if you have not already, please follow me on my Instagram, at I am Tiffany D. Newton, and Facebook is Tiffany D. Newton. You can join the Teach Me Tribe. We have our mixer that's coming up on Wednesday. That is normally the biggest event for our month, and it's just a place for us to come together as men and women in a non-judgmental environment to pour into each other. Teach Me is, all of us, the idea of Teach Me is all of us are students, all of us are teachers. So we're there to actually learn from one another and to receive from one another. So then also you can follow us on our YouTube channel at teachmetribe.com. And that's where all of these lives are as well. So I will see you all tomorrow on day 15. And thank you again so much for joining. And I love you all, and I will see you on tomorrow.